All right. Hello, everybody. I hope that you all had a very, very good spring break. And so, yeah, let's get started here with my protocol of last class. I'm basically just going to summarize the two presentations that we discussed in class. The first of which was about Carico's mRNA breakthrough. And the second, that was about Tuskegee's syphilis study and the ethical issues surrounding it. And yeah, even though these presentations were about very different topics, I think they worked well together because they showed two completely different sides of science. One of them showed science as a leading to a breakthrough that can help millions of people, and the other shows science being used in a way that ignored human dignity and caused long-term harm. So I'll start off with the Carico presentation. At the center of this presentation was a major scientific problem. Carico and Weissman discovered that lab made mRNA caused a dangerous inflammatory immune response. And this was a huge obstacle because mRNA was supposed to be a promising medical tool. But if the body reacted to it strongly, then it could never really be used safely in medicine. And sorry, I forgot to mention this. This presentation was done by Jordan, Helen, Ava, Ivy, and uh, uh, oh god, Ava, Helen, Jordan, Ivy, and who am I missing? Ava, Jordan, Helen. I don't know. I'm missing somebody, but somebody else also helped them with this. Um, so yeah, the slides explain that they had up there when they're presenting that the immune system, especially dendritic cells, treated the synthetic mRNA almost like it was foreign, and threatening. And so that meant the entire future of therapeutic mRNA was at risk because the technology seemed too inflammatory to ever work in the human body the way researchers wanted it to. And so what is important is that researchers did not stop there. So instead of deciding that mRNA was, you know, as a whole was a failure, they kept investigating what exactly was causing the immune reaction. And according to their presentation, they compared different kinds of RNA, including um, mammalian RNA, bacterial RNA, and lab-made in vitro mRNA. And through that comparison, they realized that some RNAs triggered inflammation and others did not. And that led them to the idea that the key difference might be the chemical structure of the RNA, especially the presence or absence of certain nucleoside modifications. So the problem really shifted from mRNA does not work to maybe this specific form of mRNA is being recognized as foreign because of the way it's made. Um, and that, oh, it was Hannah. Hannah was also part of this presentation. Sorry, Hannah. Um, you're the goat. And so, yeah, that shift in thinking was a huge part of the breakthrough. And so, the key discovery in the presentation was that when they replaced uridine with pseudouridine, the results changed dramatically. And the modified mRNA was able to avoid immune detection, reduce excessive inflammatory cytokine disease, and produce more protein. And so, yeah, overall, their presentation was great. It went beyond the science itself and talked about what the process of discovery looked like. In the slides that they had emphasized that good science is not usually one dramatic flash of genius. Instead, it is built on persistence, repeated testing, and a willingness to keep going when the first result is disappointing. And so a question that they had for the class was, why is this discovery more important than just one successful experiment? And I believe Sunil provided this answer saying, I think this discovery is more important than just one successful experiment because it changed the way scientists understood the entire problem. Before this, people could have looked at the inflammatory response included and concluded that mRNA was simply too dangerous or too unstable to ever work as medicine. But Carrico and Wiseman showed that the issue is not the idea of mRNA itself. The issue was that the lab-made version needed to be engineered differently so that the body would not treat it like a threat. And another question they presented to the class, I believe Thomas answered and said, to the question that was, what does this presentation suggest that good scientists do when something fails? And Thomas said, I think the presentation suggests that good science do not immediately assume failure, means the project is over. Instead, they treat failure as evidence that there's still something important they do not understand yet. In this case, the immune reaction could have ended the research, but instead it became the reason the researchers asked better questions and ran better experiments. Excuse me. Thank you, Thomas, for that insight. So now I'll move on to the syphilis presentation. Uh, this was myself, Sunil, Thomas, um, JP, and Anton. Really, it was mainly just me doing all the work on this presentation. I'm not gonna lie, but we won't get into that. And so this presentation focused on the Tuskegee study, which began in 1932 in Alabama, and basically, the study involved about 600 black men, most of whom were poor and uneducated. And of those men, around 400 had syphilis and were left untreated, while 200 men without syphilis were used as a control group. And so basically, the stated goal of the study was to observe what untreated syphilis did to the body over a long period of time, including through long-term observation and autopsies. And so you can already see that this raised a bunch of ethical questions, but our presentation made it pretty clear that the study became especially disturbing because it continued for decades, even after medical knowledge and treatment options improved. And so one important part of the presentation was how it explained the way people were kept in the study. The slide, we had a slide that listed incentives like free transportation to and from hospitals, free hot lunches, medicine for illnesses other than syphilis. And on the surface, those things might sound supportive, but the presentation clearly frames them as ethically troubling. Um, they gave men practical reasons to participate or stay involved, even though they may not have fully understood what the study actually meant or what was being withheld from them. And so the biggest ethical turning point in their presentation comes when penicillin became an effective and widely available cure. The slides explain that although the study began before penicillin existed, the moral situation changed once a real treatment was available. At that point, continuing the study without giving men treatment was no longer just an observation. It became a deliberate choice to allow preventable harm to continue. And so we kind of got into how Dr. J.D. Millar's statement that a serious moral problem began when penicillin became available in the late 1940s was withheld. And so basically, the final part of the presentation focused on the point that um, showing that even government officials who, exhibited this and had serious doubts about the morality of the study, um, they didn't really do anything about it. And so one senator called it a moral and ethical nightmare, and officials admitted that there was no clear effort to stop the program once it had started. And so we point out that even if you look at the statistics, the core issue remains the same. People were knowingly left untreated while harm continued. And so a question we posed to the class was, what's the moral difference between not offering treatment versus actively denying it? And our lovely classmate, Hannah, said that she thinks there may be a difference in wording, but morally the difference becomes very small once the researchers know treatment exists and still choose not to provide it. So once penicillin became available, not offering it was no longer just passive inaction. It became an active decision to let people remain sick, even though something could have been done to help them. So even if officials tried later to defend the study by saying the men were not technically denied treatment, ethically, it still felt to her like a form of denial because the people in charge had the knowledge and power to intervene, and they didn't. And so the next question we posed was, do the incentives listed, like food, transport, burial support, sound like manipulation, support, or both, and why? And Jordan provided this very insufficient answer, but I'll get into it anyway. He said that he would say both, but mostly manipulation. They were supportive in the sense that they provided things that the men probably genuinely needed, like transportation, meals, and burial assistance, but that is also what makes them manipulative. Those benefits created strong reasons for vulnerable people to remain connected to the study, even if they did not fully understand the situation or risks. So while the incentive may have looked good from the outside, they were tied to a system that was not actually protecting the participants' health. Thank you, Jordan, for that answer. That'll be it for my core protocol presentation. Thank you guys for listening. Kasich Burning Man Friday night, 10 to 2, and then we have St. Patty's, where your boy Professor Kim will be front and center on the stage, getting Sendy and whatnot. So please make sure to RSVP to that so we can get you guys your bands. And thank you.